at the SBA, we do four main things, right? The first one is our capital. We make sure that we guarantee small business bank loans to make sure that banks are lending to small businesses. So capital is one of them. The other one we do is contracting. We have a space in federal contracting at the SBA. The next one we do, which you kind of touched about, is our consulting. So we have resource partners like the Small Business Development Centers, SCORE, Women's Business Centers, all around the state, and VBox too, all around the state, helping entrepreneurs and getting them trained
in Georgia.
In Georgia, correct. And nationally too. And then the last one we do is we have a disaster program. So God forbid if a storm comes through, which storms do come through in the Southeast, the SBA actually lends money directly to business owners, homeowners, and renters. But the big thing we're known for is the SBA-backed loans, the small business loans. SBA actually had a record-breaking year last year. We did $45 billion in backed SBA loans.
35 billion.
45 billion. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a record. And when you look at Georgia, the district office of Georgia actually was the fourth largest district office in the nation at $1.8 billion in SBA-backed loans.
So Atlanta did 1.8 billion.
Well, the state of Georgia did.
State of Georgia collectively, yeah.
Fulton County did over 270 million.
Wow.
And then right here in Roswell, there was 30 million SBA-backed loans.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So out of, I think in Roswell, there's 5,000 registered small businesses.
Yes, that's right.
30 million just came right here. So that's capital. That actually, that money, that trench of money, I think is average that it created 650 new jobs right here in Roswell through the SBA partnership that we have with banks.
See, that's pretty phenomenal, because those are the kind of stats that the average business person doesn't realize. That, we always, a lot of people talk about the federal government being just this big monster and it never touches us here on the ground. But in reality, 650 jobs were created last year in 2025 because of SBA.
A sincere thank you to Wellstar North Fulton Medical Center for its sponsorship and for fostering a healthy community where businesses can thrive.
Welcome back to Brew Talks. I'm Steve Stroud. I'm president and CEO of Roswell, Inc. We're your economic development organization here in the city of Roswell, serving North Fulton and the Atlanta region. And it is a special honor today. We are blessed to have a very special VIP guest with us. He's visited here at Roswell, Inc. Not too many months ago, and we're really glad to have Tyler Teresa back. Tell me the full title.
Yeah, so it's Southeast Regional Administrator for the SBA.
For the SBA. Yes. And any of you that know me know I'm a cheerleader for SBA, because I had an SBA when I was back in the printing business, and it helped me buy my first building. And so I'm a big fan. So thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your role and how you got here. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Well, Steve, thank you so much for having me on. Roswell, under your leadership, Roswell Inc. and Roswell, the city as a whole, is really booming. So it's always great to be back here.
Thank you.
I love seeing all the projects that you guys have going on and talking to you a little bit beforehand about everything that's happening here in Roswell. It's booming. But just a little bit about me. I grew up in Sarasota, Florida. My dad owned a small business. It was a mobile detailing company. So I like to say I learned firsthand what it means when a business can't meet payroll, because my dad often didn't meet payroll for me, but taught me a lot about, just the entrepreneur journey. And if you have an idea or anything, you can make it happen in this country, which is, an honor to be in this position. But as a Southeast Regional Administrator for the SBA, I cover 8 states for the SBA. This position is a politically appointed position, so it's confirmed by President Trump in the White House. They were able to appoint 10 regional administrators across the country. For the Southeast, it is 8 states. So Georgia being one of them, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee. So I got a lot of big swath. So a lot of ground to travel, but always happy to be in the great state of Georgia, where Administrator Kelly Loeffler's from. So, it's better. A very important state.
Yeah.
And I think we have a lot of great things under her leadership that's helping small businesses right here in this state that I'd love to talk about.
She's a great story and a great success. And you see her as a business leader and a female business leader on top of that. I just always think about all the different things that she's touched in the state of Georgia. Well, and now nationally.
Yeah.
But it's so neat because you and your family are in Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
And you're here quite a bit.
I am. I'm here quite a bit. Like you said, my wife and I, we live in Greenville, South Carolina. She's originally from Asheville, North Carolina, and kind of same thing like me. Her parents still own a small business, a consignment shop up there. So we decided to meet halfway it's Asheville, North Carolina. So we decided to meet halfway, and that's Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, so. I know when we were last together, we talked a lot about some of the programs, but I said it in the opening. SBA is so critical to so many businesses in this country. And, I'm partial because, we serve Roswell, but it is a national endeavor. And, tell us a little bit about the partnership that you have with SBA. I know we have multiple partnerships with you, which is the SBA through SCORE.
Yep.
And we know it very well through the mentoring program of SCORE. And then we also know it through SBDC, right? Through Georgia State, University of Georgia. We work with both of those chapters and helping support the businesses here. But tell us about the relationship, because you've got preferred banks that do a lot of SBA business here in the metro area.
Yeah. So as you know, you used to own a business, you actually got an SBA loan. So at the SBA, we do four main things, right? The first one is our capital. We make sure that we guarantee small business bank loans to make sure that banks are lending to small businesses. So capital is one of them. The other one we do is contracting. We have a space in federal contracting at the SBA. The next one we do, which you kind of touched about, is our consulting. So we have resource partners like the Small Business Development Centers, SCORE, Women's Business Centers, all around the state, and VBox too, all around the state, helping entrepreneurs and getting them trained
in Georgia.
In Georgia, correct. And nationally too. And then the last one we do is we have a disaster program. So God forbid if a storm comes through, which storms do come through in the Southeast, the SBA actually lends money directly to business owners, homeowners, and renters. But the big thing we're known for is the SBA-backed loans, the small business loans. SBA actually had a record-breaking year last year. We did $45 billion in backed SBA loans.
35 billion.
45
billion.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a record. And when you look at Georgia, the district office of Georgia actually was the fourth largest district office in the nation at $1.8 billion in SBA-backed loans.
So Atlanta did 1.8 billion.
Well, the state of Georgia did.
State of Georgia collectively, yeah.
Fulton County did over 270 million.
Wow.
And then right here in Roswell, there was 30 million SBA-backed loans.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So out of, I think in Roswell, there's 5,000 registered small businesses.
Yes, that's right.
30 million just came right here. So that's capital. That money, that trench of money, I think is average that it created 650 new jobs right here in Roswell through the SBA partnership that we have with banks.
See, that's pretty phenomenal, because those are the kind of stats that the average business person doesn't realize. That, we always, a lot of people talk about the federal government being just this big monster and it never touches us here on the ground. But in reality, 650 jobs were created last year in 2025 because of SBA.
Yeah.
And that's pretty impressive.
It is amazing too, because that's one thing I love about this job is we get to help small businesses, and there's no better leadership than Administrator Kelly Loeffler. Some of the things and initiatives that we've been rolling out lately, I think is going to help a lot more people. So within the SBA space, for government-backed lending, we always used to guarantee bank loans up to like 75%, right? So if you're a small business, you go to your local bank, you say, hey, I would like to apply for a loan. And you may have an experience working in the C-suite of a company, but you never owned a pizza shop before, right? So
never made that payroll.
Yeah, exactly. You never made that payroll. So banks may be a little hesitant to lend to you, right? But the nice thing about the SBA guarantee is that if a bank is a participant in the SBA loan program, using our guidelines, they can lend you money, right? And God forbid, if your business fails, defaults, the SBA would guarantees, on average, it used to be 75%. But since we have such a big focus on onshoring under President Trump's leadership, that we actually increased our guarantee to 90% for manufacturing companies. So that's NICS code 30 30 through 33, right? So if your NICS code starts
Yep.
with 30 through 33, your manufacturer, and you can actually have 90%. So that means banks are more incentivized to lend to these businesses.
Right.
On top of that, we did that for the food industry too, because food security is a national security. So grocery stores, cold meat processing plants, cold storage, there's a whole swath within that also have a 90% guarantee, which that's huge for industry.
Huge.
Because that just means we're going to put, banks are going to want to lend to these businesses, which is going to grow the economy.
That's right.
And one of the biggest things that we've done recently at the SBA to increase capital is typically the SBA has always been capped at $5 million. That's set by Congress too.
Yep.
So the SBA hasn't had a increase in our lending amount since 2014. So it's always been $5 million, which, as you know, nowadays
won't go far.
It won't go far. So what we've been able to do is we found a way to decouple our 7A from our 504, effectively increasing our loan amount to $10 million. So if a business needs a lot more capital for manufacturing,
sure,
they can go to their bank. They can get a 7A loan, which is a bread and butter. That's working capital. Right. You can purchase real estate. You can kind of do anything you want with the 7A. You get $5 million of that. You can then go to what we call a CDC, a Community Development Corporation, and they participate in the 504 loan program. So what that program basically is your bank is going to take, that's for real estate and fixed assets, right? So you're thinking long-term projects.
The equipment.
Yep, right. Equipment. So you can go to your bank. They're going to take the first mortgage at 50%. The CDC, which is effectively like the SBA, they're going to do the 40%. And then as a small business owner, you come in with 10%, right? So that's your capital stack right there. So you can do an extra $5 million of that too. So that's effectively, you got your $5 million with the 7A, $5 million with the 504 for your real estate equipment. That's a lot of capital that you can put towards manufacturing, hotels, whatever you want. That's industry-wide. That's not a specific NICS code. So we were able to find a way to get more money into Main Street America, which Congress hasn't been able to do. No offense, there's a bill out there, but
get it.
We've been able to find a way effectively to increase our loan limits to help Main Street. So that's been one of the biggest pushes that under, this administration's very focused on how do we help Main Street grow, and increasing our capital limits to 10 million is really going to do that. So.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. If you can double the amount of capacity that you can give to an individual group, because one of the things that's so important are the small businesses, and people forget who these small businesses are. They're your next door neighbor, right? And in Roswell, 85% of the businesses here are less than 20 employees. Mm-hmm. So when you realize that, it's really quick that you understand how the dynamics work and what the ecosystem looks like. And when you can get that kind of capital to grow your business, especially in the manufacturing side, that's huge.
Yeah. And Steve, you bring up a good point. Most small businesses are 20 employees or less, right?
Right.
The SBA side standards, we actually can service business that go all the way up to 500, and depending on NICS code, 1,500, right? So small businesses are the backbone of the American economy. For every 3 jobs created, 2 of them are created from a small business. And when I travel around, I got 8 states all across the Southeast.
You see it all.
And I meet with these small businesses and I see it all. But the 3 things that they always talk about is, we got to make sure we get capital, which I think we're addressing at the SBA. The other thing is federal regulations. As you said, most small businesses think, when you hear the federal government, you think of regulations, hurdles, taxes, restrictions. Yeah. We have an office that really hasn't kind of seen the light of day under past administrations, which is sad, but it's called the Office of Advocacy. It's a small office housed within the SBA that basically their whole job is whenever a federal government's creating a new rule, let's just say the EPA, because that's an easy one.
That's an easy target. Yes.
Whenever the EPA is coming up with the new federal regulation, they actually have to do a small business study, and that's done through the Office of Advocacy, right? And the Office of Advocacy can go to those federal government, the federal agency, and say like, hey, this is affecting this small business.
And that's even before.
And that's before. But most federal before, like I said, Office of Advocacy has kind of been brushed aside. So A lot of federal agencies probably didn't do that before. But now what that office can do is they can look at the federal regulations that are on the books, and they have a team of economists and attorneys that can actually put real data and numbers to it to say, hey, this federal regulation that you created has impacted small businesses in the form of XYZ number. So the Office of Advocacy has been really focused under this administration to make sure that we remove federal regulations, because under President Trump, for every one new federal regulation we have on the books, we got to remove 10. So the Office of Advocacy within the SBA is really focused on that on the behalf of small businesses.
Moving those barriers,
trying to get them out of the way. The other thing is too, it's taxes once again.
Oh, yeah.
So, the work and family tax cut, the one big beautiful bill, was instrumental into helping these small businesses. When you look at it, I think 12 million small businesses on average saved $7,000 this year on taxes, which is huge.
It's a big number.
That's big. And when you look even locally here in the state of Georgia,
sure.
Over the next 4 years, inflation adjusted, people are going to see an increase between $7,000 and $10,000 in their paychecks, just from that passage of the one big beautiful bill.
Amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. And then also, I think 63% of employees in the state of Georgia can actually take advantage of the no tax on overtime. And 25% of employees in the state of Georgia frequently do take advantage of the no tax on overtime. And same with no tax on tip too. I think 5% of the state of Georgia can take advantage of no tax on tip. And as you know, as an employee owner, when your employees are paid well and they're compensated well,
that's right.
They're not looking for employment elsewhere.
They're not moving around.
They're not. And I remember talking to you previously too about, if you're having your workforce come in 15, 30 mile, minute drive away, it's really going to affect your small business.
Does.
So, making sure that they're getting paid and compensated well is a huge push of the one big beautiful bill that I think has really helped Main Street America thrive. And you can see it from the job report numbers too.
Oh yeah,
it's been increasing like crazy.
Well, and you're right. When we were together last time, we talked about the fact that you're not going to bring a guy to flip burgers from 20 minutes away, because there's 300 burger places between their home and Roswell, Georgia.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to have competitive wages. You have to use every tool as an entrepreneur you can.
Yeah.
And SBA just happens to be one of those tools that you can use for consulting, like you said, and finance. And that's a big piece.
Yeah. And also just within the state of Georgia, I think between the SBA and our resource partners, we did 450 events. Wow. I think that touched over 20,000 small business owners. So we're making sure that we're hitting the ground. And that's one of the biggest things is our resource partners, the small business development centers, the women's business centers, SCORE, or in a V-Box. They're the ones that are really helping businesses. So what I recommend every small business is these are free resources. They're free business consultants. So if you have a business plan, or if you don't have a business plan, even better, if you don't have a business plan, reach out. Visit the SBA website where you can find all of our resource partners.
But you guys just revamped the website.
We just revamped the website, which that's another big push from, President Trump. He wants to beautify everything, right? Yep. So he wants to make sure that the federal government actually has a website. All the federal agencies have a website that people can function and use. And one of the biggest things that we did under this Trump administration is we reclassified our CIOs, our Office of Information, right? Uh-huh. So we were able to bring in a gentleman from Georgia, Hartley Codwell, who used to be the CTO for Fiserv, Citibank, and he's really put a big emphasis of how do we engage with their customers, which are small businesses, obviously,
that's right,
banks, resource partners, people in the government contracting space. So we put a lot of effort into our new website to make sure people can find the information more easily, right? Mm-hmm. Because the last thing anyone wants to do is sift through a government website. So when we actually, that's the best part. Minister Kelly, she says it all the time. We need to act like a business, right? We need to know our customers' journeys,
right?
Make sure they can get the answers that they're looking for, because no one wants to navigate government bureaucracy.
No.
So,
and we talked about, the fact that, and you hit the nail on the head. Small businesses need efficiency. Mm-hmm. They need to, they're going to your website at 11:30 at night,
yep,
because that's when they're catching up,
yeah,
right? And that's when they're truly doing the day part of their job is in the weeds. They're making bagels, they're changing tires, they're detailing cars, they're doing whatever that is in the day to help make sure that business is successful. And they need as easy access as they can when it's after hours and they're trying to catch up, right? And so I think you guys are doing some great things in that direction.
And then also on the back end too, when it comes to technology, these lenders that are trying to get the SBA loans out,
process them.
They need the process faster too. So how do we revamp our internals so that way, we can get things out faster? Because at the end of the day, speed kills deals.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So we got to make sure we're moving as fast as we can, moving at the speed of business to service these small businesses.
That's right. Deal fatigue will kill a deal in a heartbeat, right? It
really does.
Tell us some things that we should be looking at as small businesses. Obviously, the website. Tell us a little bit more about some of these events you've had around the state, because one of the things I'd like to do is get Roswell more plugged in to the SBA and maybe bring an event to Roswell. So talk to us about some of those.
Yeah. So I was just at this event last week in Edenton, North Carolina, and it was a great event. It's Are You Lender Ready? Lender matchmaking events.
Wow.
Right. So what we did is we brought a bunch of lenders together, right? So big banks, small banks, banks that participate in the SBA program. And then we brought a bunch of businesses together. And the businesses actually, before that, they had an opportunity to learn, what does a bank need before they're going to lend you money?
There you go.
So it prepares the businesses. So then they can talk to the banks and present them all the information, see which bank is right for them. Because at the end of the day, each bank kind of has a different appetite to what they're looking to lend for. So you got to have options. You can't just go to one bank. They may not want to lend you.
What's their sweet spot is.
What's their sweet spot?
Yep,
exactly.
That's what I would say.
It was great because Edenton was one of the counties that didn't have a lot of SBA loan activity, right? So we were able to get these businesses, and you hear from some of these people. This one gentleman had 50 employees. That's a big business, right? But he hasn't actually pursued an SBA loan or any loans because he just, didn't want to. He didn't know which banks were perfect fit for him. But he was able to find a bank at that matchmaking event, and now hopefully. I haven't checked up on this, but
hopefully it all came together
and he's able to grow. Yeah, because he's looking to grow his business. Once again, 50 employees. He wants to add 25 new jobs. He wants to keep growing and expanding. And that's huge in a town like that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the events that we do is these matchmaking events where we bring the banks and the businesses together. And then we also had a discussion too. So the businesses can ask the lenders on a panel, hey, what are you guys looking for? Well, I have this question. I want to do a
dialogue
back and forth, right? So they can get more information because
that's great.
Yeah, it was a great event. So we got to do one here.
All right. I loved it. I love this. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I mean, we do this because we started out saying we need to tell the story, right? Yep. And we need to tell the story of the businesses because as an economic developer, really what we do is we tell the story.
Yep.
And if we do this, we tell the story correctly, we get more people involved, we get more opportunities, and business grows. Mm-hmm. And so just by having you present here today, and we'll have more to come, I can promise that's going to happen. We've learned so much, right? $200+ million in Fulton County, $30 million in Roswell, and 650 jobs in Roswell. No. That's a big cheers. That's a big here, right? We appreciate what you do, and we will welcome you back at a special event with the SBA.
Well, Steve, I'm looking forward to coming back. And also your story is just driving through the town. Every time I'm in Roswell, I'm like, man, this is the perfect little city right here. So
it's the greatest little village you ever seen with 100,000 people.
It's exactly. No, it's literally gorgeous here. And like I said, every time I'm here, I feel like it's like my happy place.
Well, it's your home, so come on back.
It's a great little, you guys are doing it great here. So
thanks. Yeah. As we always say, it's a great day to do business in Roswell, Georgia. It's a great day to do business with the SBA. Thanks for being with us.